So, another pretty bad loss today, actually. They lost 28-11 to the Indianapolis Colts, so Minnesota falls to 0-2, almost in a panic mode. The Colts improved to 1-1. Statistically, Rivers 19 of 25, 76%, 214 yards, 8.6 average yards per attempt, 1-1 on the touchdown interception ratio, 2 sacks, lost 11 yards, and 97.8 rating. Jonathan Taylor was their lead ball carrier, and he led it by a pretty wide margin with 26 carries for 101 yards, a 3.9 average, and a score. Not horrible. Jordan Wilkins, 9 for 40. Paris Campbell on what I hope the injury's not too serious. It looked pretty bad. Paris Campbell carried it one time for 7 yards and left the game. Then you have Phillip Rivers, 4 for 3. And then in totality, 40 carries for 151 yards, a 3.8 average yards per attempt, and a score on the ground. Receiving, I know a lot of Viking fans were probably looking at like, well, how do we do against the pass this week? Because last week was horrible. And better, but not great. Mo Ali Cox, their tight end, 5 of 6 targets for 111 yards and a 22.2 average and a long of 33. He is a tight end. Michael Pittman, the rookie who I actually thought would not play, he did. 4 for 6 for 37 yards, 9.3 average. T.Y. Hilton, 3 for 5 and 28 yards, 9.3 average. Zach Pascal, 3 for 4, 19 yards with 6.3. Jonathan Taylor, 2 for 2 and 9. And just kind of clean up things. Austin Dolan, 1 catch, 1 target, 6 yards. Naheem Hines, 1 target, 1 catch, 4 yards. Third downs, they were 3 for 11 at 27%. 2 for 4 in the red zone, so, 50%. They were plus 2 in the turnover department. They held the ball for 38 minutes and 25 seconds, which is unfortunately an improvement on the Minnesota side of things. And 9 penalties for 93 yards. I thought on both sides they were very flag happy. So that is just what it is. Minnesota. Cousins. Buddy. No, this was not it. 11 of 26, so 42% for 113 yards, 4.3 average, 0 scores, 3 interceptions, although 1 was a Hail Mary pick, so probably like 2 real ones, as 1 was like a desperate attempt to score, but still not good. Was sacked 3 times and had a rating of 15.9, and they did lose 18 yards on those sacks, so Minnesota's going to be credited for having 95 total passing yards for this game. Running the ball, which I didn't think they did enough of, or even tried to do enough of. Dalvin, 14 carries, 63 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, a long of 16, and a score. Madison, 3 for 13, 4.3 yards. Ham, 1 for 4, 18 carries, 80 yards, 4.4 average yards per attempt, and a score. I just think the volume is kind of the problem there of all the things, which is kind of weird. Did not expect that to be a problem with this team. Receiving, Jefferson, our rookie first-round pick, led the team in receiving today, catching all 3 of his balls for 44 yards and a 14.7 average. Thielen, 3 for 8 with 31 yards and a 10.3 average. Olabisi, 1 for 3 for 24. Dalvin Cook, 2 for 2, 8 yards. Irv Smith, 1 for 4, 3 yards. Irv Smith had a bit of a rough day as well. Alexander Madison, 1 for 2 and 3. Rudolph didn't catch his lone target. Now, they went 2 for 9 on third down, so 22%. Also not very good. 1 for 2 in the red zone, so 50%, rather neutral. -2 in the turnover department, so also not good. 21 minutes and 35 seconds of time of possession, which is, once again, sadly an improvement over 18 minutes and 44 seconds. And they were penalized 6 times for 45 yards. Now, we get into the mess that is this team. Offensively, they need to use Dalvin Cook. He's your best offensive weapon, and I don't really understand why we're not using him at all. They're refusing almost. He touched the ball the first play of the second quarter. He did not touch the ball again until there was 9 minutes and 27 seconds left in the third quarter. That's the next time he touched the football. That's 22 plays in between Dalvin Cook touching the football. Minnesota's not going to win games that way when possibly their best offensive player is not touching the football. That doesn't make sense. And just for, some more things on this, in that second quarter carry, when he touched it, Minnesota was up 3-0. The next time he carried it, they were down by 15 points, 18-3. Why? Why were you not giving him the ball? He's kind of the guy that makes the offense go. I think we've established that by now. He had 16 total touches, 10 in the second half, which is, that's combining both receiving and rushing. So 62.5% of his touches came in the second half, down by 15. It's inexcusable because it wasn't necessarily the Green Bay thing where all of a sudden you were down. You just decided not to use the guy, which is worse because it wasn't dictated by circumstance. It was just you just didn't want to, which is I don't know why. I know Buckner's very good and he did destroy the line like I kind of expected him to, but at the same time, he's your best player. And I think even on the touchdown run late, that it was like, yeah, it's over. I still think you saw like what kind of makes Dalvin Cook on that play. And you just kind of look at that's like, well, why weren't we using that guy? That looks helpful. So, the team is set up to run to open up the pass. It's not set up to pass to open up the run. And I feel like Kubiak is calling this the other way around, which is a problem. There's a lot of throwing happening early in these ball games, and I'm not a fan of it. Yeah, it's okay if you throw on the first play, yes, but you can't just throw. It feels like they're only throwing, and it's not they're only throwing. There's a lot of deeper passes that they're not hitting at all, and it's just kind of reckless football, and you can't win with reckless football. You want actual calculated risks, not reckless. Reckless is bad. Always bad. And Kirk, he played pretty horribly today. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. He was not good enough today. There was a lot of misfires and just other things, and the offensive line didn't help. Samia had some rough times, but I think that's pretty expected with his first start. I think the problem with Elflein is at times he looked like how Samia looked today with his first start. Just Elflein's, 3 years into his career. Well, I guess 4 years now into his career, almost exclusively as a starting player, and he still kind of made the same mistakes. So I think Samia's probably a little bit more excusable just in the sense it was his first start. So, and, Buckner, like I said, did Buckner things. Doesn't really surprise me. 22% on third down is unacceptable. You need to stay on the field to help your young corners and a struggling defense currently. You need to do that. Because, once again, they were on the field for 38 minutes and 25 seconds. And the defense held them for 3 of 11 for third downs. And the offense, 2 for 9 on third down. So this one could kind of go towards more for the offense than it was the defense. I think last week we saw the defense having more problems than the offense did because it was like you literally just couldn't get off the field. And now they're kind of getting off the field a little bit and the offense just can't stay on. Now that's a different problem. And there were too many penalties for my liking, although I think some of them were a little trigger happy at times. Defensively, it still wasn't good, but I thought it was an improvement over last week, which really isn't saying much. I thought Ngakoue had some pretty decent rushes in there. I noticed sometimes he was shooting up the field instead of playing the run on some of those Jonathan Taylor runs where he's getting 8-9 yards. But aside from that, I thought he did okay because I don't know what the exact numbers are going to be, but I saw him get what I think were a few pressures. He obviously got the strip sack, and we saw how quick he can be off the line at times. I think he's probably the one of the bigger positives from this game, personally. Uh, and 27% on third down, much better than the 55% they allowed to the Packers last week. And that 522 yards was down to 354. And they only allowed 24 first downs versus 31. So I think we saw some marginal improvements, but we still have a lot of issues. I think it's very clear our corners here are still very much in the learning process of things. And the interior defensive presence is definitely going to be an issue moving forward. It's not really there. It's kind of just non-existent, and that's a big problem. So we'll see how they address that. Hopefully when Hunter comes back, we'll see this defensive line get more pressure, because then all of a sudden you can put Ifadi into the 3-tech a little bit more, and you have some more bodies to move around, things like that. But in terms of rush defense, not sure how much better that can realistically get unless they go out and sign a guy like Damon Harrison or like a Marcel Darius. So not really sure there's much to be done on that front. So overall, I think the defense kind of went a bend, don't break kind of thing, because they still did allow a lot of time off the clock. But, they allowed 28 points, which is bad, yes, but only 2 of those were actual touchdowns, which means a lot of field goals were happening. And that's a lot of bending, not breaking, and if the offense could have stayed on the field, maybe that's not as bad. Just, and, just overall here, like, the entire game, the offense was not good, and they kind of learned nothing from the safety situation last week, because we saw the same exact scenario. You're backed up, let's go, let's throw some deeper passes, and then you get sacked for a safety, and then you come right back off of that safety, and then you end up throwing a pick right before halftime, and the only real difference in the situation was Indy only cashed in 3 versus the 7 that the Packers got. So, it's not good. It's not good at all. And, Barr did go down with the shoulder, and he did not return. We'll see how horrible that really ends up being for his health and the team and all that good stuff. But even if Barr was on the field, Barr is not, the thing that's going to make Minnesota win this game by magic. That's just not what that was. I don't think Minnesota had a chance to win this game just because of how the offense was playing, let alone what the defense was doing or not doing at times. And if this continues, Minnesota's headed down a pretty dark hole. Because if you look at the schedule, it certainly isn't easy, at least up until the bye. You just want the little sample size, because they have a bye in week 7. So that means 4 games. Your 4 games. Next week you have Tennessee at home. That's kind of a struggling thing, because you got Derrick Henry. You don't really have much of an interior presence. At Houston, they do have a Deshaun Watson. He can do some crazy things. Seattle is a really good team. Atlanta had a bit of a lapse today, but overall they can score points. If we haven't really shown that we can score points in Minnesota, so if they can't keep up, that's another problem. And then you hit the bye. So this doesn't necessarily need to improve quickly. It needs to improve right this second, because we could be looking at a potential roster purge at the end of this season, strictly if this play kind of continues. This is not a good football team, at least right now. They have some talent on it, yes, but it's not really coordinated all that well right this second. And that kind of matters a lot, because if you look at the Jaguars, they were competing with the Titans today. They also have a win from last week over the Colts. And there was a lot of people thinking they're just going to be tanking for Lawrence, all these things. They're just trying to get draft picks. They're trading everybody out. They don't want to win. They're competitive, and they've even won a game. Minnesota hasn't even been competitive. And I think you can kind of look at that, and it's like, the way Minnesota's playing right now, and the schedule, you might be lucky to get 1 win. That's lucky. That's a problem. So if they don't come out and actually be firing on all cylinders next week, I think there's going to be a severe level of panic because there is a path to where this thing is blown up after the season, or even potentially with Anthony Harris because he's on the tag, him at the deadline. So yeah, that's like worst case scenario. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom, but that is a possibility at this point. I would like to know your guys' comments down below, opinions, all that good stuff on either team, really. If you're a Colt fan watching this as well, like and subscribe. And until next time, I bid y'all adieu.